He's in the Caribbean vacationing, and well, he should be because he deserves it. But we do have a number of the people who are getting the Lifetime Achievement Awards this year. And I will do a quick introduction of our host, and then we will get started. So, Chris Adam, who is a professional, told me that I should tell everybody, please silence your phones. Right? So don't forget to say that. It's very important.
Nathan, I suggested we silence our phones.
That's right. That's
Told you and not me.
But I'm taking his advice right now.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you for doing that. So I will do an introduction of our moderator for this panel. He is somebody who's been in the business for a very long time. Actually, Chris and Dave Oppenheim started a little company called Vision, Opcode Vision. And so I'll turn it over to you, Chris, and you can get started. Give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Nice to see lots of friends here. I'm really grateful to Avin. And first, I got to say, I'm not a great public speaker, so I'm going to read. But I'm grateful to Avin and the MIDI Association for allowing me to present these achievement awards to these incredible engineers, musicians, and entrepreneurs. And I speak from the point of view as a musician customer. From the start, the MIDI standard has given what I would call decent musicians the ability to expand their sonic palettes. So all of a sudden, guitar players became drummers. It allowed good musicians the tools to sound great, and great musicians the tools to be very, very prolific. So MIDI began its life as a protocol to connect electronic keyboards to each other, and through the efforts of the pioneers here on the stage and others that we honor today, it's brought the standard to different kinds of instrumentalists, producers, recording engineers, and it's even created new genres of music. I'm pretty sure that none of these people started their projects thinking they would transform the music-making process to what it is today. They were simply excited about the brand new MIDI standard, advances in computer technologies, and of course, music. As their companies grew, they must have thought, wow, I can make a living doing this. I won't go into their personal bios. If you turn around, you can see some of the pictures on the wall. And also, there's a QR code that if you use, you can find out more about these gentlemen. But I'm just going to ask some questions. So Dave is first, and I'm always grateful to Dave for being my partner. But also, just a couple things you might not know about him is he has perfect pitch, which can be a blessing or a curse, depending on how you look at it. And he was also the church organist at the Stanford Memorial Church, so he has a background as a musician. So here's my question for Dave. You were always passionate about synthesizers. How did you first find out about MIDI? What first attracted you to the standard enough to spend at least a year coding your first sequencer without knowing if anyone would use it?
There's a lot of questions. I don't know. I played making little hardware sequencers with just a microprocessor and a whole bunch of buttons and some cheap wire wrap sockets, and they did some interesting things. Before MIDI, somebody had a OBX-A or something that I intercepted the connector between the logic board and the keyboard and was able to detect which keys were being played and fool the logic board into thinking that keys were being played so that it was I could record and play with this little box. At some point I heard about MIDI, probably like Keyboard Magazine or something like that. It was pretty well publicized. And even though I bought a non-MIDI synthesizer right before I heard about MIDI, we embraced it pretty quickly. with all the wire wrap sockets failing, I was really happy when the Macintosh came out. It, compared to the competition, it had many fewer ICs on it, which made me think that it would be more reliable. And, it was actually it was interesting to be able to call them and talk to somebody on the phone enough to find out that, yes, the serial ports can be made to support the MIDI bandwidth. So then it was, possible to make a MIDI interface for the original Macintosh. And, I kind of started all of this just, because I enjoyed doing it, not really thinking about the whole financial or entrepreneurial things about starting a company. But as it turned out, the Macintosh seemed like a good choice because it was easy for musicians to figure out and use. And everything just kind of grew from there.
Cool. So next question is for Chris Adam here. When it all started in the mid-'80s, using computers for music creation was a new idea. What were the most significant changes in the way you developed MIDI-based software since you started this 4 decades ago?
Yeah, it's really 4 decades ago now. So we started very early when MIDI came out in the mid-'80s. The DX7 was the first very interesting new synth around, and that's how we met. So I was a student, but also demoing synths in the store. So we met about the DX7, and the first things we did was on the C64, and it was about storing and editing DX7 sounds. And when we started, we just did software just for ourselves. We just tried out things. Hey, it works, isn't it great, or so. And then over the years, many things changed. So Gerhard wrote a sequencer still on the C64, and on that machine, it was so limited. 64 means not gigabytes or megabytes, but kilobytes. Today, our program icon is much more than that, and we had to squeeze the complete code and data in it. So it wasn't about clean, maintainable code. It was about just making it work at all. And we did our own limited QA. We wrote the manuals and all this. And you asked what changed. So when we moved to the Atari later, you see this here, this was a much bigger exercise. We had by then decided to go all in on software development, finished our studies, but never worked anything but in software development. And we started to hire more people. Until that point, we basically did the development just between the two of us, and more and more my job description changed, building a team of talented engineers, not just to distribute more workload, but also, and that is still what I enjoy the most, to find talented people who can do things that we couldn't have done. And during all this process, as and I must say, MIDI, the MIDI 1.0 kept us going for such a long time. And I still admire the work also our good friend Dave Smith has done in the early years. So we could do so much using that protocol. It's, I think, one of the most successful protocols in our industry, of course, but also beyond the music business. So today it's much more not about squeezing out the last bit of power of a computer, but to create maintainable, usable code, to have more people working on it. And so it's quite a journey, and we both couldn't have anticipated what would come out.
Yeah, you can't discount how important it is to have someone leading that will attract other people to work on the project.
That's right.
So Gerhard,
Yeah.
the first time I saw Hawken Continuum was at your house. So obviously you're thinking about controllers, alternate controllers back then. What does MIDI 2.0 mean for DAW users, do you think?
Yeah, that's a long question. First of all, I should say, I think the MIDI Association did a great job in inventing MIDI 1.0 because it served us so long, so wonderfully, right? This was really nice. And now with MIDI 2.0, and I think ASIN is important for that, MIDI 2.0 completely covers everything MIDI 1.0. And as Chris said, that's one of the largest surviving, still current standards in the world, I would say. And the fact that MIDI 1.0 still runs today after 40 years with the most current equipment, I find this pretty amazing. Everyone takes it for granted, but I think it's super cool, right? Think of any digital device 40 years old. I'm pretty sure it doesn't work anymore, right? So MIDI 1, when it was created, the original thing, I think it was targeted. I want to layer a keyboard. That was the time when synthesizers and keyboards in general had been very limited. And I think the original thought was, hey, I want to layer things, right? And I want to combine across companies. That was also a breakthrough. A Yamaha DX7, for example, with sequential circuits. What was it?
Prophet 6?
Not Prophet 6. No, it was 600. Prophet 600, right? So things like this, and Korg and Roland, and so Roland was very early too. Just layering things. And I remember the first NAMM shows where this layering was very dominant, right? So live. I don't think a lot of people thought about music production the way we do use it today, right? And the next thing was Kusek. I think that was a little bit of an afterthought. They added Kusek, and that became a huge hit, right? At that time, that allowed you to get the memory stored much cheaper than on cartridges on computers. That was for a lot of people very important, to be honest. I think that's our start here, right? I bought this DX7 as a musician. I did not even know what MIDI is. And man, these cartridges are expensive. I did this for myself, nerdy, right? And so, I can store this on a Commodore 64, which I had for video gaming. So life is sometimes weird. You do certain things and suddenly you have the surprise change. Then the next addition was, we can do sequencers. We can do more recordings. Then it became more serious. It was first perceived as a toy by many people. And in fact, if you made music in 1983, 4, 5, most people are hiding the fact they used a computer and making music, because the perception was, if you use a computer, it's not human, and where's the creativity, right? And I remember a lot of discussions when I say a book is just as good when you write it with a typewriter than with a text system, what a lot of people already knew. So now this added more, and I think MIDI 1.0 is so rich that it served so well for things. As a protocol, even beyond the 5-pole DIN socket with USB today. The limitation of MIDI, I would say, after the transport became so much faster, which solved basically the timing issues you had in large systems with the original MIDI sockets. We all had these towers of MIDI outputs, every synthesizer, it's 64 outputs or whatever to solve the problem. Now it's much faster. And I would say today it's probably mostly resolution and ease of use. And one of the most simple thing from the service would be to increase the velocity resolution from 7 to way more bit. Typically, the best machines today support 10-bit, which is fantastic. It's so much better than 7-bit. I would say MIDI 2.0 has a huge promise there, because suddenly things just sound better, they respond better. It's more a feeling thing. It's in an A/B comparison, it's probably hard to say it, but after a while using it, when I play on a keyboard in 10-bit resolution and all components are in 10-bit, I think Ivory was a pioneer there as a plugin. I'd like to give them a little praise. And it sounds fantastic. It's really nice. So I would say resolution, and that's not only true for velocity, it's the most obvious thing, but it's also pitch bend, where the ear is very sensitive, and I heard you have absolute hearing. You probably appreciate this even more. So you don't get the zigzags, the staircases so much. And what else? I would say MIDI CI is a great promise. I don't see it implemented yet everywhere, and guilty as charged, I think we are also. But it's a promise. The fact that MIDI 2.0 requires bidirectional connections is fantastic, even if it's just a MIDI keyboard and you think, why would I have to send things back? The fact you can communicate in both directions is a huge promise for ease of use. You connect things and it could do completely automatic. Nobody has to make sure your MIDI channels and port numbers are matching. And why don't I hear anything? What of the 20 different reasons is it this time why I couldn't hear anything, right? And with MIDI CI, that could be a huge improvement. So I see this as a big improvement. And I would also mention MIDI files, works great, very compatible. If larger resolution is great for this too. I can go for a long time now, so please stop me if I talk for too long about this stuff, but I really like it.
That's fine. That's a good answer. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Switching to another platform, the founder of Cakewalk was Greg Hendershott, and today he's being represented by, by Paul McCabe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I do not feel worthy to be on the stage with these legendary people. I've spent a lot of money on your products over the years, I assure you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You want the cash?
I'm Paul McCabe. I'm from Roland Corporation, Japan. I lead an R&D group called Roland Future Design Lab, and it is my distinct honor to be on the stage with these gentlemen today and be accepting an award of this recognition on behalf of Greg Hendershott. Greg started Cakewalk in 1987. I don't know if you can remember 1987. I can barely remember 1987, but what I do remember was that I was working in music retail stores in Vancouver, Canada, and I was selling Cakewalk software in the late 1980s. And I remember meeting Greg Hendershott when he came to visit my store in Vancouver, probably in about 1989 or so. My first impression of Greg was that he's very tall. He's a very tall gentleman. He's very quiet. He's very humble. He's very, very smart. And so I actually was able to cultivate a friendship with Greg. We stayed in touch, and so I've known Greg for a very, very long time. When I joined Roland, working in Canada in 1992, somewhat poetically, Roland Canada became the first international distributor of Cakewalk software, and so I got to spend a lot more time with Greg because Greg was always looking for feedback and he was looking for input to improve the Cakewalk experience. I was able to witness Cakewalk transition from MIDI to MIDI and digital audio with Sonar. I was able to see Cakewalk move into the world of beat making with Project 5 and continue to innovate. I remember very clearly at that time that although Greg himself is and continues to be very quiet and he's very humble, being close to the users of Cakewalk was something that was very, very important to him. And what I remember very clearly was that Cakewalk was able to build up, probably at that time, the largest community of music makers, electronic music makers online in their Cakewalk forums, and it was well over 100,000 users. And Greg would often be in the forums talking directly with users online, and he was treated with a great deal of respect, as I'm sure you can imagine. Things really came together for us in 2003 when Roland acquired Cakewalk, and then I got to work even more closely with Greg as I watched him and his engineers and our engineers developed some of the first really deeply integrated full hardware and software music making experiences on the Windows PC. And that was really, really special. I've stayed in touch with Greg. I know if he were here today speaking with you, he probably wouldn't say much because he's quite a reserved guy. And again, he's very humble, but I know that he would be really, really thankful. And just a show of hands, how many out here might have used Cakewalk software at some point? Okay. That would be deeply meaningful to Greg, that he's contributed to your music making. So on behalf of Greg Hendershott, with deep respect to these gentlemen here, thank you very, very much for this recognition.
Thank you, Paul. So when Opcode started in the early days, we had one full-on competitor on the other side of the hill where we are in Northern California, and that was Passport. And Dave Kusek and I later became friends, which I Really appreciate it. And he actually started the online school at Berkeley College in Boston. So that's a pretty huge deal. And Dennis Lebrecht here is going to have a few words from Dave.
Okay, so for those of you who know me, typically when I speak, it's jazz. A lot of improvisation, few wrong notes, but I keep going. Contrary to that, today I actually have hard copy. I'm going to go more classical with a piece of paper. This is from Dave. I spoke to Dave last week. Deservedly retired, but he wanted me to say a few things to this audience. Hello from Dave Kusek. I'm truly honored to be recognized for this Lifetime Achievement Award and so proud to be a part of MIDI and the music making community. Together we change the world for better. At Passport, yours truly and Dave, and the people who we had working for us and with us, fully embraced MIDI as soon as we heard about it. We had actually made a computer music system based on the Apple II. It's called the Sound Chaser. It was all pre-MIDI. The advantage that we had, of course, is that we had already had a lot of software. We had a sequencer, we had notation stuff, but it wasn't MIDI. When Dave saw MIDI and met Dave Smith and Mr. Kakahashi, it was like, yeah, we're not going to make this thing anymore. We're going to do the MIDI thing because we don't want to make hardware. We want to make software. So MIDI's simple design and let us focus on developing interfaces that were easy to use, putting powerful tools in the hands of hundreds of thousands of musicians around the world. Of course, the great thing about MIDI, and I'm honored, by the way, to be even up here with all these people, is that no one owns it. MIDI's for everybody here. And that's how this all happened, is that, oh yeah, I can do this, or I can do this. It wasn't proprietary, which there were a number of interfaces that people were working on at the time that were. So this democratized the way that music was made. And certainly, I think you said it before, it may be unique in the world of technology standards that it's still here. Just brilliant in the fact that we can still use MIDI 1.0 to get stuff done. And now that 2.0 is coming out, we're going to be able to do even more. I mean, every person in this room has a cell phone, I would imagine, and you have MIDI on your cell phone. I mean, you can do things with your phone. You can sequence on your phone. And over the years, and this is echoing what he just said, over the years, rivals became friends. I mean, we're all in this together, and yes, we were fierce competitors, and we'd get together at the Hilton Bar and have a beer. It didn't matter because everybody was successful. Everybody was doing great things, and people that were using our software, were doing great things. And this is also a key, and again, I think you just touched on this one. We were united by the knowledge that we changed music forever. Not just how music was made, but we changed music itself. I can't imagine some of the songs and some of the stuff that came out in the 80s and the 90s and now would have been possible without MIDI. Think of arpeggiators, think of Hungry Like the Wolf by Duran Duran. I mean, all of this, the music changed, and we helped change it. For better or worse. I mean, MIDI, was like 3 guys in a 10 by 10s down over there somewhere. And now this is MIDI, right? All of this is MIDI. MIDI democratized music making. No longer limited by what they could physically play, artists were limited only by what they could imagine. I've got a lousy left hand, right? I can play really, really good bass lines with my right hand. So MIDI did that for me, right? I can now do a pretty decent bass line. Again, Dave speaking, I had so much fun in the 80s and 90s, traveling to Japan, around the world, working with great people in the industry. It was the collaboration, and Athen touched on this, between Japanese, American, and European manufacturers. And a shout out to AME. Any AME folks here? MIDI Japan helped do a lot of this. It's really the kind of cooperation we need today. And I won't get into anything political, but people need to cooperate a little more. So I want to thank the MIDI Association again for this award, to Dave Smith and Mr. Kakahashi, wherever you guys are. We love you and thank you for your vision and the great chance to be part of it. And to all of you here today, from Dave. Rock on. I do have one thing I want to add, and I'd like to acknowledge the student volunteers. Raise your hands, student volunteers. Student volunteers, and their leader, Jennifer. Say hi, Jennifer. Jennifer was an early Passport artist endorser, became an educator. Oh yeah, and Alex, we're wearing the jacket. I'm amazed that he actually still fits in the jacket. I don't fit in mine anymore. But this generation has a direct lineage to Passport designs. These students have a direct lineage to Passport designs. And somebody out there will be up here at some point. And that's really the point. MIDI has done this for all of us. Thank you very much. And again, honored to be up here.
Another recipient of this award is Charlie Steinberg, who was one of the founders of Steinberg. And Clyde Sundecut here is going to accept the award on his behalf.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Obviously, I'm not Kyle Steinberg. My name is Clyde. So my journey with Steinberg began in 1996. And Charlie asked me to accept the award for him today. Charlie is really humbled, very proud to be among those great gentlemen here on stage and those great gentlemen that are represented by others, like I do it for Charlie. And Charlie asked me to say to you actually that with MIDI, everything started for all of us. And Charlie and many other team members at Steinberg from the past until today are happy that they have had the opportunity to contribute and to participate in all those great developments from the past and all those great things that are to come. And for all those achievements Steinberg has been done in the past years, there is a great bunch of other peoples around Charlie. So just to name a few, you all know them, I guess, very well. So guys like Manfred Röhrup, especially Werner Kracht, Michael Michaelis, Stefan Scheffler, and there's some more guys. So I wouldn't be here without those guys. So I'm very, very proud to be part of Steinberg and what has actually then MIDI enabled to me for my life. So thank you very much in the name of Charlie to all of you, and have a great time, guys.
So I believe Athen has a special presentation here that I will reintroduce Athen Bilius.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to give a very warm round of applause for Chris Adam, Gerhard Lengeling, David Oppenheim, and Chris Halby. Give them a round of applause. We're going to let them get off the stage for a little bit. Round of applause. You guys can go off. We're going to bring you back to get your actual awards, but you can they don't need to hang out for a while. One of the people who couldn't be here today was Emil Tobenfeld. And you can read about Emil on one of the articles that the MIDI Association wrote about him. I'm going to speak to what Emil did because I was working in a small music store in Boston called EU Wurlitzer's. And it was the place where everybody in Boston, the Cars had their studio right across the street, and they used to come over all the time. And Emil was an amazing person. But he came into EU Wurlitzer's, and if you... people probably don't remember EU Wurlitzer's, but there was the first floor, which is where the guitar repair was. And then you had to go upstairs to where the actual second floor was where all of the stuff was. And the guy at the front desk called me up on the internal intercom, and he said, "There's a homeless guy here to see you." And I went, "Okay." And I went downstairs, and it was Emil, who was running Dr. T at the time. And so, Emil came up, we had a conversation, I bought a bunch of Dr. T software, and, Emil left, and I went down to the guitar guy, and I said, the front counter guy, and I said, that guy who you just called homeless, he actually writes the financial software for the Bank of Boston. So what Dr. T was doing was he was supporting his hobby of being a musician and also an artist. If you go to his website, it's really interesting because I did a lot of research for the history of these things. When I went to his website, I found thousands of wonderful, beautiful, very artistic photographs. And Emil Tobenfeld was an artist in the sense that he wasn't just a musician. He was also took photographs. He also was involved with dance troupes. He was involved with theater troupes in Boston. And so, he really expresses that thing, which I think is very much a part of MIDI, which is it's not just about the music. It's about being an artistic person and expressing yourself any way that you can. So, we're going to move on, and we have a very special guest today, and I'm going to ask him to come on up here and have a seat right over here. And this is what I usually do. I did this with Jordan Rudess a few years ago. What I try to do is I try to get somebody that I know really well up on stage and embarrass them as much as I possibly can. I did a really good job with Jordan.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this, Evan. Thank you.
So let's start with a little bit of history of who Roy is. So a lot of people do not know this, but Roy was actually destined to be a professional bowler. Now, one thing that I did try to do in all of the pictures, I tried to find Roy with the longest hair I possibly could, because I figured that would be a good thing.
It's a lot sexier now, isn't it?
It is very much a lot sexier. So that's a picture of Roy. Roy was actually invited to be on the PBA tour, the Professional Bowlers Association tour. Which I like. When you start researching people, you find out these weird things about them. You go, what? So why did you want to be a bowler?
I didn't. I just happened to get good at it.
And so what? So
no, I was working in a bowling alley, and it was about 15 or 16, won the Michigan State Championship, and got pretty good, and tried out for the PBA tour and made it.
And so you actually ended up in Memphis, right?
Yes, yes.
And so he got invited to Memphis to run a bowling alley, but then you actually discovered your real passion, which was what?
Beale Street. When I got to Memphis, I've always been a musician, and I got to Beale Street in Memphis, and I've always wanted to do music. It was always my passion, like everybody that's standing here. And I quit the job and quit the bowling alley and got a job in a music store in Memphis.
So you worked at Amro Music?
Amro Music in Memphis, yeah.
So another thing that I didn't know, anybody here ever bought any gear from Chuck Levin? Anybody know Washington, D.C.?
Yep.
It is one of the great independent music stores that is no longer around, but for many years, Chuck Levin was the place in Washington where you would go, and I mean, so many people bought gear there. It was pretty amazing.
Yep.
Anyway, we're going to keep going. So there's a picture there of you with some couple of people I recognize. How the heck did you meet Willie Nelson?
Well, there's quite a funny story behind that. I went on to work for Ensoniq after Chuck Levin's, and I started with Ensoniq. I'm sure some of you are familiar with Ensoniq keyboards. And I started with them during the ESQ1, the second product, and I ended up running artist relations. And we did a big promotion with Willie Nelson out in Vegas. The other guy in that picture is the founder of Ensoniq, Bruce Crockett. His name is David Crockett. He's actually a direct grandson of Davy Crockett, which many people don't know. And we were doing this promotion, and Bruce was a big fan of Willie, and he asked me, he said, I'd like to meet Willie after the show. And the manager of Willie said, yeah, I can arrange that, and but you'll have to come out to Willie's tour bus. Now, Bruce happens to be the straightest guy on planet Earth. And I had been around the business a long time at that point, and I'd heard rumors about what goes on Willie's tour bus. So Bruce and I walk out to Willie's tour bus, and of course, when you open the door, it was like a tornado of smoke that came out of the bus. And I'm standing there on the bus with my boss and Willie Nelson. That's where that picture was taken, in a sea of pot smoke. So that was, and my boss, when we got off the bus, he said, let's just not tell anybody about this. So just keep it a secret between us, okay?
So it seems there's a theme here because there's another very tall guy in the picture below who might have partaken of some of the same.
Well, that was with Bill Walton and Roy Firestone. And Bill Walton, who's recently passed, was an endorsee of Ensoniq. And many don't know, but he was a very good piano player. And got lots of conversations with him about music. And he, it was interesting when Bill would call and ask about the keyboards. He was just so deep and so into what he was doing, but always it ended up in a conversation about the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers. And it was not unusual to see Bill backstage at a Grateful Dead concert, and he was just so deeply in love with music and music history.
So you actually went out on the road with the Allman Brothers,
Yeah,
right?
I did. What happened was, they had a blind keyboard player named Johnny Neal, and Greg was already endorsing us with the Greg Allman Band, and so they would ask me the first week or two of a tour every year to go out with the Allman Brothers, and help Johnny with his keyboards because he was blind and make sure everything was set up. So it kind of became a ritual every year to go out, and boy, I tell you what, as a young guy being on the road with the Allman Brothers, with your idols, it was just, I had died and gone to heaven.
So I found the handsomest picture that I could find. This is one of the things that Roy did was he started the Ensoniq School. And
I see a few of the students here. Yeah.
It is so amazing the number of people who actually got a passion for making music by going to the Ensoniq School. He was, Roy was one of the people who really founded the idea that a manufacturer needs to actually work directly with end customers to explain how stuff works.
Yeah.
That was
go figure, huh?
Yeah, that was a new concept back then. So talk a little bit about the Ensoniq School and any cool experiences.
Well, our number one pupil is right there, Paul McCabe, who has been my great friend for years. When we started the Ensoniq School, we built it from the ground up, and we had about 1,500 people from the industry go through the school. Most of them were dealers, and many of them are running companies now. But the whole idea was we quit going to NAMM, and we used that budget to start the school. And we thought, cut the mic. Yeah. But we didn't work on just the product. We worked on selling the product, but really a lot of focus on building your career in this business. And so many folks have done that, and that's the thing that we're most proud of is what the school became, not only to us, but to the industry.
So, a lot of people, Roy has had a very long career. So he worked at Ensoniq. Then he went on to work with a company called Sonic Foundry. Sonic Foundry were the people who introduced the world to acid. Not that kind of acid.
Yeah.
The acid that's the software that was one of the very first things that allowed you to control samples and time stretch them. And that was revolutionary.
Anybody ever did, I want to say, did anybody ever use acid? But probably get the software. So there's a lot of users. And
I'll raise my hand twice on that one.
Well, there's an interesting story with that product is when I got to Sonic Foundry, we were pitched by a person from the University of Michigan who had this product called Record Blender, and had just a god-awful interface. And it was the first product that you could compress and stretch loops in real time. Now, by today's standards, that doesn't seem like much. But I had just come from Ensoniq, where the standard was for every 1 second of a sound you had, it took about a minute to render it. So it wasn't very practical to compress and stretch loops. You just kind of recut it. And so we knew we had something with this. We just had to put a new interface on it. And one of our engineers who came from Microsoft and was one of the founders of the company was really good with interface. And we had to change the name of the product because it was called Record Blender. Well, the code name of the product was Acid. And we initially thought, well, let's get a firm, we can't call the product Acid, that would just be too in your face. And then, so a marketing firm came back to us and wanted to name the product Heavy 33. And as the VP of Sales and Marketing, I said, what the hell is that about? We're not going to call the product Heavy 33. And then we just decided Acid's about the best name we could come up with. And we got a lot of heat for it. One person sent us a note and said, are you going to call the light version marijuana? And I thought, well,
In honor of Willie Nelson.
yeah, in honor of Willie, but maybe that's maybe not a bad idea. I don't know. But anyway, Acid was, we believe, one of the products that changed the industry, and just about everybody has some type of feature like that in their software.
So, in the interest of time, look, Roy has an amazing career, but I wanted to say one thing about Roy. Roy is from the Midwest. Roy's from, from Detroit. And there's something about people from the Midwest. And I'm going to express it the best way I know how, which is I had a friend from Philadelphia, and we went to the Midwest together. And, we got to the airport, and everybody in the Midwest is truly friendly. And they're real, they're very real people in the way that they relate to people. And this person from Philadelphia, we got into the airport and everybody said, oh, hi, how you doing? Good to see you. And then we got to the hotel and everybody was super nice. And the guy from Philadelphia said, these Midwesterners are driving me crazy. They're so nice. Roy is truly a Midwesterner. He has spent his entire life creating community. So this is just one example of one of the things that Roy does. It's called the Madison Area Music Association, and what they do is they try to get kids who are disadvantaged access to musical instruments. And Roy doesn't, say, well, I have a relationship with the MIDI Association, so it has to be a MIDI product. He doesn't care as long as if they play right?
Yeah, as long as they play. If a kid wants an instrument, we will get it for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna finish it up with a couple of things that you may not know about Broadjam, which is the company that Roy runs now. Broadjam does the voting for the Tech Awards. They do the voting for the MIDI Innovation Awards. They do the voting for the Country Music Awards. Can you tell the story about the Country Music Awards? Because I think there's only one person who couldn't figure out the digital voting in the Country Music Awards.
Yeah, when we started Broadjam in 1999, there weren't many online platforms. In fact, Flash hadn't been invented. APIs haven't been invented. Everything we did is very primitive compared to today's websites. And one of the early things we did was catalog metadata and ask our members to really catalog their songs, because the vision was make it a songwriter site, not necessarily an artist site. And from that, we developed online contest and submission processes. And of course, like all of these guys here, you know, I understand that when you're running a company, you kind of have to be tenacious. There's ups and downs, and I'm sure every one of these guys could say that. And by the way, I had the luxury of using every one of these products in the 80s and 90s all the time. I was single then, by the way, too. So I understand what they go through, and we've been at it 26 years now. And so as we're developing these things, we had this great online contest, and the Academy of Country Music called us and said, would you handle our vote for the award show on CBS? He said, do you guys do stuff like that? And I looked at our balance sheet and I said, yeah, we do it. So we started consulting companies who are doing voting processes. And that's kind of how we got into the business, by developing our own on the website. And we've done, I don't know, 5,000 of these types of things over the years for different companies now. So we're very proud to do it. We're very proud to do it for NAMM, the Tech Awards, and so many other companies.
That's great. Well, so we are actually going to do what this is all about, which is giving out the actual awards. And if you can find Roy's award, thank you very much. Wow. Roy, it is with great pleasure that I present you with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the MIDI Association.
Thank you, Evan. Can I point out one thing? Look, when I was volunteering for the MIDI Association a few years ago in 2016, 2017, before MIDI 2.0 was developed, you know, MIDI had been around, 30 years at that point. It hadn't had an update. And if it wasn't for Evan, this guy right here, none of us would be sitting here. The MIDI Association was steady, but it wasn't really growing. And when Evan got involved and asked me to get involved and a couple other folks to really get this thing going, if you knew where it was then and where it is now, we didn't have we just had a small table here. He has transformed this organization to where it is, led the charge on MIDI 2.0 along with Mike Kent and some of the other great developers in the world. But I just want to thank you, Evan, because you truly have been an agent of change and changed our lives.
No. I actually only have one talent. I'm really good at conning smart people into doing things for me. That is all. And so, Roy, thank you.
Thank you, Evan. I appreciate that.
I'd like to invite Chris up. It's an amazing honor and pleasure to award you a Lifetime Achievement Award for all of the work that you've done.
Well, thank you, Ethan, and to the MMA. It's a great honor, and I accept this also on behalf of the many people behind us. Few of us are here. We never could have done this alone, so thank you very much.
And I'd like to have Clyde receive the award for Charlie on his behalf. Is there a doctor in the house? Sorry. I didn't do this. This is Lawrence's doing. So I will tell a very short story. Yes. No. Gerhard came to visit me when I worked for Korg, and we went out and we had a lovely, lovely dinner at my favorite restaurant in Shimo Tokaido, which is called Suzume no Yado, which means the Sparrow's Inn. I don't think either of us remember very much about that night because we enjoyed a lot of wonderful sake, but we just had a wonderful time together. And the other thing that I will say is, when I was working for Korg, we had a music workstation. But when I saw Emagic connected to an M1 and some of the things that you were doing with the combination of the computer and an M1, that's when I realized what a true music workstation was. It was the combination of hardware and software working seamlessly together. So, Dr. Gerhard Lengeling.
I met Ethan, I think it was 1989. He worked with Yamaha at the time in Tokyo. I think that was the
Yes,
first time.
yes.
Anyways, thank you very much. I accept it, and I can repeat what everyone else said. I had so many people around me who are doing wonderful things and do so many things better than I can do. So thank you for some people are sitting here, for which I know for a long time. And I also want to second Roy. MIDI would not exist without the MIDI Association, the people doing this. And Roy was absolutely correct. You are more important than everyone else here because MIDI 2.0 would not exist without you.
No,
And I really mean this, right? Okay, good. Thank you.
I'm going to call you doctor. You know, you had Dr. T, you had Dr. Lengeling. I'm going to make you an honorary doctor of the MIDI Association. David Oppenheim.
Thanks.
So thank you all for coming out. Please also, this is a QR code. If you scan that QR code, it will take you to all of the articles about all of the MIDI Association Lifetime Achievement Award winners. There is a tremendous amount of history with MIDI, and it's important. And the reason it's important is because this is what you learn from. So later on today, we're going to be talking about the MIDI and Music Education initiative that we have. They are actually using all of the articles about these Lifetime Achievement Award winners so that people can learn about the history of MIDI, because you need to know the history to know where you want to go next. So thank you for coming out. We will have another presentation starting soon, but I really appreciate everybody turning out and showing up for this. Thank you.